Good morning. We are starting our next unit. We are going to be working with data sets and how to interpret and use different data sets. Today we are doing Po60. I can identify and calculate the mean, median, and mode. And then we're going to moving on to different types of graphs. So you'll see on my word wall, I've got mean, median, and mode over here. And over on the other board, I have different types of graphs. So we're going to be learning all about those different graphs. You know bar graph, okay? Histogram is very similar. But we are also going to be learning about the dot plots, the stem and leaf, the box plots. So different types of graphs and how to interpret them. So we're starting off with something we know. We've worked with mean, median, and mode. You learned it, you used it last year. We've had it in some of our math packets. We've had to do mean, median, and mode. So now we're doing it as part of our unit. So far this season, so we're thinking it's still basketball season, even though now it's baseball and softball season. But so far this season, your team has played 9 basketball games, scoring 27, 23, 22, 32, 22, 15, 25, 28, and 22 points. Your coach asks you to predict how many points your team will score in your 10th game. How might you do this? So, when we're given all these different data points, what's the first thing we need to do with all the data? Jack?
Do we need to put them to least to greatest?
Yeah, we need to put them in order from least to greatest. So if we look at this, we would start with 15. And then our next number would be 22. We have another 22, another 22, and we have 23, 25, 27, 28, and 32. What did you notice I was doing as I was putting them in order, Matt? Putting them least to greatest. What other thing was I doing to help me stay organized, Vinny?
You were crossing out the numbers that you put up.
I was crossing off the numbers as I went. I always have friends who think, oh, I don't need to do that. I can keep it organized in my head. And then on the test, they miss one. Or they write 1, 2 times. Okay? Stay organized. I cross off and write it for a reason. I'm modeling that because I know what some common mistakes are that people make. Stay organized as you're writing out your scores. So we have all of ours written out. What might be one score? How might we find one score? Knowing that we're working with mean, median, and mode, what might be one way we could figure out what the 10th game score might be? Rhoda?
Finding the most common number.
Maybe finding the most common number. What do we call that, Rhoda?
Mode.
The mode. So maybe, oh, I see 22 3 times. Maybe the mode is what they're going to get again because I've gotten that 3 times. What might be another thing that we might use, Matt?
You add them all up and then you divide by how many there are.
Yeah, if I add them all up and I divide, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games they played. I have 9 scores. I add up all 9 scores and I divide by 9. What do we call that? Moses? The mean. The mean means the average. So this is the score that is the average that we get. So we're not sure. Maybe a good predictor would be the most common score that they've gotten. Or maybe we might want to find the mean because that's the average of what they're scoring. And then we have the median. What is the median, Michael?
You cross off each side until you get to the middle.
Yeah. Median is the middle. That's not necessarily a good predictor. So if I were to predict what score that they would get, I would use the mode or the mean. We're gonna write down definitions, and we learned from the last test, definitions are important, right? We're gonna wanna include those on our help sheets. So we're gonna write down some definitions, how we find it, and then we're going to figure out what those are having to do with those basketball scores. So our mean is the average of the data set. And we talked about how to find it. You add all the numbers together. And divide by how many numbers there are. So we know that there are 9 scores. We need to add all 9 of those scores up, and then we're gonna divide by 9. So get out your calculators and add up all 9 of those scores. What is the total you get when you add all 9 up? Alex?
24.
If I add, listen to my question, what is the total we get when we add all 9 numbers up? So you jumped ahead. What was the total that you got?
216.
So we got 216 by adding them all up, and then we need to divide by that 9, because there are 9 scores. So 216 divided by 9 was what, Alex?
24.
24. So the mean of our basketball scores is 24. Next we have the median. We talked about how the median is the middle number of a data set. This is when it becomes super important that we put the numbers in order from least to greatest, right? This is the important one for that. So put numbers in order from least to greatest. And find the middle number. And this is when Michael is talking about cross off from end to end and work your way in. So I can cross off, cross off, cross off, cross off. Ooh, I only have 1 number left. So that tells me that is my middle number. What happens if we have 2 numbers in the middle? If we have an even set of numbers, there will be 2 in the middle. Can I have 2 medians? Do I list them both? I saw Maddie shake her head no. What should we do if we have 2 numbers?
Should you add them together and then divide by 2?
Yes, we need to find the mean of those 2 middle numbers. So, if 2 are in the middle, add them together and divide by 2. You can only have one median. Always, always, always. One mean, one median. You cannot have two numbers in the middle. You have to find the average, the mean of those two numbers. You add the two numbers together, you divide it by 2. That is your median number. There can only be one. Always have friends that will list both of those middle numbers. Cannot have two, only one. Okay? Does that make sense? So if you need to write it, can only be one number. Give yourself a note if you think you might forget that. Always, 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 only one median. Our last one is the mode. Remind me what the mode means again, Jack?
Is this one like the number that comes in most?
The number found most often in the data set. So if we have our numbers in order, you're going to see real easy which one we see the most of. Mode, most, it's those MOs. Median, middle, they've got the duh in that middle sound for both of them, okay? So mode, most, median, middle, they kind of sound similar. What would be our mode for this data set? What do we see the most of? Jackson? 22. I have 3 22s listed. There is no other number that's on there 3 times. So how we find it is find how many times a number is listed in a data set mode is the number listed the most. And like Jackson said, in our basketball numbers, the one listed the most is 22. Any questions on mean, median, and mode? Michael?
If you would that all of them are in number order, like 22 is for mode, 23 is for median, and 2 is for
Yeah, it is not always the case. But yes, for this one, we have 24, 23, 22. It does go in order. Just like with the median, we have something special saying there can only be one. With the mode, mode is special too. There can be more than one, or there can be none. If they're all listed one time, there is no mode. So we could say can be more than one number or none at all. There does not have to be a mode. Okay? So you could have, if we had a 22, 22, 22 and a 25, 25, 25, you go, well, they're both listed 3 times and all the other ones are 1 time. You would put down both 23 or 22 and 25. So if they're the most, it's two different numbers listed the most same amount of times, list them both. If they're all listed the same amount of times, they're all just on there one time, then you write none. You would not put 0. Why would we not put 0? Rhoda?
It doesn't show up in the data set.
Yeah, 0 is a number, and 0 is not in our data set. Sometimes 0 might be listed the most in our data set, and 0, the number 0, would be our most. So we can't put a 0 on there. There's no 0 in our data set. You would write none. Okay, does that make sense? So just remember, if there are none, you put the word none. You do not write the number 0. All right. Any other questions or noticing comments? I'm going to scroll up. What do you think is the best method to use out of mean, median, and mode? Which one is the best one that we should use? Matt? Why? It just seems like you're doing so much work for it. It's the best one to do. Okay, what do you think, Jack?
Mode.
Why mode?
Because it is the number found most common could probably be what happens next, almost.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Mean, median, and mode. Which one is the best method? Our actual answer is that it depends on the question being asked. We have 3 different methods for a reason. They give us different results, right? They're looking at the information in a different way. So one is not better than the other. It all depends on the question being asked or the prediction you are making. So we talked about the question of what would the next score of the basketball game be. Median really wasn't a good method to use for that. There might be a question where we do want to know the middle number. And in that case, median would be the best method. But to answer that original question, it is not. All right, let's look at the bottom. How to calculate median when there is an even amount of data. I want you to see if you can do this. So you're going to work out that median. Right now, work out those 6 different data entry points. Figure out what the median will be. When you have it figured out, raise your hand. Make sure you put your hand up when you've got an answer. I'm waiting until at least most of us have it done. Shantrea, what did you get for an answer? How did you get 11? Because I don't see 11 listed in there at all. Walk me through your steps. First step with the median is always put them in order. So tell me the order that you wrote, please. Okay, what was your second step? Did you end up with 9 and 13 in the middle? Okay, then what did you do? What is 9 plus 13, Shantria? Why did you divide it by 2? Because we have 2 numbers, so we divide it by 2. 22 divided by 2 gives us that 11 for our answer. Awesome job. Biggest mistake people make with the median, they forget to put them in order. So make sure you put them in order. Make sure if you have that even number that you work that out. Jude?
So for the median, when you're crossing it out,
Mhm.
if there's 3 numbers in the middle, would you divide it by 3?
Why would we not be able to have 3 numbers in the middle, Jude? Because if we're crossing off, we can still cross off. So we will never end up with 3 numbers in the middle. It'll either be 1 or 2. If there are 3, you gotta keep crossing off, okay? So always crossing off until you can't cross off anymore. That was a great question. All right, on our second page, we are going to be working out the mean, median, and mode of those data sets. When we see the bottom, it's the same thing, just in a table form. So instead of having our list going across, our list of data points go up and down. Do the same work to find your answers. We are going to pause from math right now because it is art win time. We will be coming back to math for work time. So when you come back to me, we're gonna go straight into work time. So then if you have questions, you'll be able to ask me questions. If you are at home, I didn't ask anybody to move. If you are at home watching this, I hope you are well and I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.